Hello. We're going to work on lesson 22 today. We're going to look at adding and subtracting decimals. So it says in our description, it says that you can add and subtract decimals as you would add and subtract whole numbers. It is important to line up the digits with the same place value as using the decimal point as your guide. In examples, it says a local town held a 26-mile walk to raise money for a charity. There are water stations at mile 7.8 and at mile 19.8. And there is a halfway checkpoint at 13 miles. So Kelly stopped at the first water station, then she continued on for another 3.25 miles. How many miles has she walked? So first off, it says to line up the numbers so that the digits align and with the decimal point. Right here. So you see how 7.8 is going to line up with the decimal 3.25. And then it says number 2, it says starting with the hundreds, add as if you were adding without the decimals. So we know we're just going to go ahead and bring our 5 down. And then it says regroup as necessary, then the decimal point in the sum. So we know we're going to say 8 plus 2 is 10, so we're going to put the 0 here. The 10 goes up to 7. 7 plus 3 is 10, plus 1 more equals 11. So Kelly has walked 11.5 miles. So we go to the next. It says Kelly stopped at the second water station at mile 19.8. How many more miles does she have to walk to reach the finish line? First off, it says line up the numbers so that the digits align with the decimal point. And then it says add zeros as placeholders if necessary. And then it says start with the tenths and subtract the regrouping as necessary. So here we go. We are lining up. We're going to add a 0 here. And then we're just going to subtract. So we know that 0 will not subtract from 8. So we are going to borrow from the 6, and that's going to leave that as a 5. So now we're going to say 10 minus 8 is going to give us 2. So we know that 5 is not going to subtract from 9, so we are going to borrow from the 1, or the 2, I'm sorry, and it's going to leave it as a 1. So then we're going to say 15, right here, minus 9 is going to equal 6. And then we know minus 1 equals 0. So that is where Kelly has 6.2 miles left to walk. So if you have any questions on this, remember, just please send me an email. Let's go to our test example. So in our test example, Jacob has $76. He bought a pair of sneakers for $63.49. How much money does he have left? So we know with reading this, we have our key words that says, how much money does he have left? So we know we are going to subtract. So let's go ahead and do this, and let's line up our numbers. So if you've noticed, I've lined up the decimals and I've added my zeros. And so let's go ahead and subtract. So we know that 0 will not subtract from 9. So we're going to have to borrow. So we know when we can't really borrow anything from the 0, but we can borrow from the 5. And so what we're going to do is, so when we borrow from the 5, this is going to make this a 10, but then we're going to need to borrow for this 0 in the hundreds place. So we know this is going to be a 9. And so it's going to make this 10, so we're going to say 10 minus 9 equals 1. And then we're going to go ahead and subtract 9 minus 4 is going to be 5. And then we're going to say 5 minus 3 is going to be 2. And 7 minus 6 is 1. So this is where we come up with our answer of $12.51 of B. Now, in our hint over here, it talks about lining up the decimal points will help you to add or subtract the digits of the same place value. I hope this has helped you, so let's go forward. Okay, so let's read our instructions. It says, read each question, select the correct answer. Not the wrong answer, but the correct answer. So it says, number 1, use the hundredths model. And then it reads, how many more squares need to be shaded to equal 1? Okay, so we look at this and we know, first off, what we're going to need to do is we need to add them together to see how many we have correct. So with that being said, we know we're going to need to line up our decimals. So let's start here. Let's go ahead and write 0.56 plus 0.18. Alright, so we know 8 plus 6 is 4, with a 1 on top, 14. So we have 5, 6, and 7. So we know we have 0.74. So now what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to subtract from 1. So we're going to say 1.00 minus 0.74. So we do that a little bit neater. So we know 0 is not going to subtract from 4. So we're going to go ahead and borrow from this 1. And so we know we're going to have to borrow from the 10, because that's going to make that a 10. So we're going to have this a 9. And so we're going to say, make my little 1 right there. So we're going to say 10 minus 4 is going to equal 6. And then 9 minus 7 is going to equal 2. So 0.2 is what we're going to need to be able to, that need to be shaded in. Okay, so that is going to be B. Alright, so let's look at number 2. So number 2 is just says, what's the sum? So we're just going to simply add number 2. So we're going to look at the problem, and we're going to say 7 plus 4 is going to equal 11. So we'll just go ahead and use this point here, put the 1 up there. And then we're going to say 8 plus 1 is going to equal 9. Fat fingers. And so we're going to say 4 plus 2 is going to equal 6. And then we're just going to bring down our 5. And so our answer is going to be 56.91, which is D. Alright, so let's look at 3. And 3 says, what is the difference? So I'm loving how it's given some of our keywords that we need when we're working on word problems. So, and it has our problem lined up correctly. So all we have to do is just simply subtract. So we know 9 minus 0 is going to be 9. And then we're going to say 6 minus 8. Well, that's not going to subtract. So we're going to have to borrow from the 5. And so that's going to make that 5 a 4. And then that's going to give us 16. So put a 1 over that. So 16 minus 8 is going to give us 8. And we're going to put our decimal there. So we know 4 is not going to subtract from 9. So we're going to need to borrow from the 8, which is going to make that a 7. And that's going to make that 414. So we're going to say 14 minus 9 is going to give us 5. And then 5 minus 1 is going to give us 6. So our answer is going to be C. So try that. And then number 4 says, what is the sum? And so we have 31.66 minus 70.78. So we're just going to simply add those. So we're going to say 8 plus 6 is going to give us 12. So we're going to put a 2 there, 1 there. 6 plus 1 is 7. 7 plus 7 is 14. We're going up there. Put our decimal down. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 9 is 11. Put our 1 there. 1 up above there. And then 3 plus 1 is 4. Plus 1 more is 5. That's 51.5. 42. So our answer is going to be B. Alright, so let's go to our next problem, which is number 5. And so number 5 says, what is the difference? So we have, our difference is 46.43 with 16.70. So we'll go ahead and subtract that. That 3 is going to just come on down. 3 minus 0. So we know 4 is not going to subtract from 7. So we're going to need to borrow from that 6 and make that a 5. And so that's going to give us 14 right there. So 14 minus 7 is 7. So we know 5 is not going to subtract from the 6. So we're going to need to borrow from the 4, and that's going to give us 3. So 15 minus 6 is going to give us 9. And then 3 minus 1 is going to give us 2. So our answer is going to be C. Alright, so let's look at number 6. So number 6 reads, last year Luke's batting average was 0.245. This year his batting average is 0.325. What is the difference between his batting average last year and this year? With that being said, what we're going to do is we're going to subtract to see his batting average. So if you don't care, I'm going to write number 6 right here. So let's look at that batting average. So it's going to be 0.325. We're just going to subtract that minus 0.245. So make sure we're lining up correct with your decimals. So we know 5 is going to subtract from 5. Let's make that a 0. We know 2 will not subtract from 4, so we're going to need to borrow from the 3. I'm going to leave that a 2. And this is going to make this a 12. So 12 minus 4 is going to leave us with 8. 0, 0. So number 6 is B. Alright, so number 7 reads, it says use the table for questions 7 and 8. So the table shows that Vera's weekly earnings for 3 weeks. How much money did Vera earn in week 1 and 3 combined? So first off, what we're going to do is we know we're going to add because we know we're going to combine. So we are going to combine week 1 and 3. So let me add those. So we have 48 plus 88 plus 0.19. We're just going to simply add these. So 9 plus 8 is 7. 4 plus 1 is 5. 9 plus 8 is going to give us 17. 5 plus 1 is 6, so 6 plus 8 is 14. So number 7 is D. Number 8 reads, how much more money did Vera earn this week in week 3 than in week 2? Oh man, I'm just out of room. Let me fix this. Good thing about doing slides is we can simply do this. That looks a lot better. So now we can look at 88.19 minus 32.15. And so all we're going to need to do is subtract. So we're going to say 9 minus 5 is 4. 1 minus 1 is 0. 8 minus 2 is 6. And 8 minus 3 is 5. So with that being said, we have 5604. So number 8 is C. Alrighty. Don't forget, if you have any questions, just please send me a simple email. Please don't forget to go to Google Classroom. The code is 2MK74E 3. And you can always reach me. You can email me at math1jgcc@gmail.com. If you need some extra practice, you can go under Tabe Academy. Your username is your first name, 1, and password is happy1. You can go to IXL.com. Your username is your first name, 1, and it is at Job Corps, and your password is joyful1.